Ms. Liser, thank you for joining us. You've just come off a panel and so much was said, but what I enjoyed more was the banter we were having backstage about access, right? We've been talking a lot about how difficult it is to get around the continent, let alone starting to trade around the continent.
That's right.
Where's the bottleneck? Why are we struggling to even just have access to each other's countries?
Well, you know, I think that the visa systems were put in place for particular reasons.
Sure.
But I think that today, when you have Africa committed to one continent, one labor market, you know, one commercial market, that it has to be that there's a commitment to issue visas so business people and workers and laborers and so forth can really move more quickly. So ease of movement of people, capital, etc. is important. I think the other issue here are the aviation, direct aviation ties.
Correct.
You know, sometimes
and the airlines.
Yes, to get from one place on the continent to another place on the continent. Sometimes they want us to go to Europe
in order to get two countries away from you.
Yes, and then come back. So
how was your journey to the Bahamas?
Oh, it was perfect. It was only 2.5 hours non-stop from Washington,
But
D.C.
you mentioned some of your colleagues had to spend a lot of time.
Yes. But this is important. It's
it is. I mean, we're here now, we're gathered, and of course with the Caribbean, we want to, you know, Africa wants to engage more because we've been talking about our own AFCCA agreement, but we want to do more with the Caribbean.
Right.
And you, based in Washington, obviously closer in proximity to the Caribbean, do you think that we're going to win in terms of Africa and the Caribbean being able to reasonably trade between each other?
You know, I heard them launching some projects this week that are really exciting, that Afreximbank is supporting, looking at particular value chains, and then connecting up the buyers and the sellers of those products, both in Africa and the Caribbean area, and being able to facilitate that, you know, specifically in particular value chains is really important. And I think we can look at how can AFCFTA also work with CARICOM, right? Because that brings together the continent of Africa with the entire Caribbean region.
And they marry their policies.
Marry their policies, their regulations,
Correct.
And implementing support. Because you know there's financing that's needed. And the last thing I'll say is we notice that there are a number of the same challenges for small businesses in Africa, SMEs, women-owned, youth-owned, also in the Caribbean. But guess what? Also amongst minorities and women in the United States. So
the problems are the same. It comes down to capital. It comes down to single mothers who can't get anything.
Capital.
So the same problem. So we have the same problems. And so a lot of our solutions will be the same, but it comes down to that access. It comes down to those policies. So those barriers need to be broken down.
Access to capital really critical. And also market knowledge. You know, when I talk to women in the markets in Africa, they often don't understand how the American market works. And when I talk to women and businesses in the U.S., they don't understand how the African market works. But I think in all three of these places, you know, triangulating it between America, the Caribbean, and Africa. And CCA has been focused, you know, a long time on U.S. Africa, but I think that now we have a diaspora African that is the chair of our board just since January, a Nigerian American. He is the first diaspora African to chair the board of directors of Corporate Council on Africa. So we're excited about that, and I think that holds promise for the future as well.
I like that a lot. Thank you so much for your time and all the work that you're doing. Let's bridge all these gaps.
Best of luck to you.